His marriage is a fraud. Melania clearly won't even touch him. The last time she let him touch her, they had Barron. Clear that he ain't touching her now. He's got these magical doctors who claim that he was shot in the ear, but his ear, I guess, grew back. He had a Duplo bandage on one minute, no bandage the next. We can't get a medical record from this alleged assassination. He was supposedly shot. We have nothing. We've got nothing.
Where are the investigative records? One day he slapped his maxi pad on his ear. The next day the ear is totally fine.
When Melania Trump wore a jacket that said, "I really don't care, do you?" While visiting detained migrant children, most of television tried to explain it away as a fashion mistake. But Joy Reid didn't buy it. She looked straight at the camera and said what everyone else was too polite to say: compassion is not an accessory. That moment didn't just go viral. It became the start of a years-long feud where Joy Reid kept exposing Melania's hypocrisy, her privilege, and the bubble she and Donald Trump built around themselves all live on MSNBC.
Trump has those kind of voters. They are dedicated to him personally. They care more about him being happy than them being happy. They care more about him having what he wants than them having what they want. They will give up their health care. They will let their daughters be destroyed. They will let their families be destroyed. There's nothing he can do. He can drown them in Texas. He can take away their FEMA. He can do anything he wants to them. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a cult.
If you still believe journalism should sting a little, hit like right now, because this is what happens when live TV stops pulling punches. Subscribe if you support Joy Reid, and let me know one quality you like most about her in the comment section. Let's rewind to 2016, the Republican National Convention. Melania Trump takes the stage in a white dress and delivers a speech about values, hard work, and family. Words that sound oddly familiar.
It's fine. And I remember being in mainstream media where we both used to work saying, isn't it odd that we've never asked for his medical records? And I got in trouble for that. Right? So you're not allowed to even say, isn't that weird? We have more records. I know more about the attempted Ford assassination, President Ford, than I do about Donald Trump. You could see the right-wing media person trying to interrupt him, thinking, oh God, this is not going well. Because what he was saying is actually, let's unpack it for a moment. I believe what he is saying is that the brown people who are being deported and detained by ICE, by his masked agents, are natural-born field workers. Something about them makes them natural-born field slaves?
By the next morning, the internet proves why. Entire paragraphs match Michelle Obama's 2008 DNC speech almost word for word. While most networks danced around the word plagiarism, Joy Reid didn't. On MSNBC's morning coverage, she looked around at her panel and asked the question that sliced through the spin. Would Michelle Obama have gotten a pass for this? The table went silent.
It is a common feature of authoritarianism and fascism that the nation is called to come together under the autocrat and accept that his incompetent lackeys are our betters. The idea that any random white guy or right-thinking woman with zero background is inherently superior to any black person or woman, no matter how many degrees or qualifications they have, is a conceit of fascism and ethno-nationalism that, no, we cannot come together around. We cannot come together around mass deporting millions of immigrants and potentially separating families or throwing them into internment camps.
Joy didn't stop there. She pointed out how the media softened its tone for Melania, framing it as an innocent mistake, when the same act would have been treated as a scandal for any other First Lady. That clip, resurfaced again and again, is now classic Joy Reid, measured, surgical, and fearless. Everything was fine until 2 years later when Melania decided to prove Joy's point.
One of my favorite facts about one of Donald Trump's lawyers, Susan Michelis, is that one of her former clients was the notorious New York mobster Benny Eggs. And I will just assume and presume that old Benny Eggs was not attacking the judge. So Donald Trump is at this point outdoing actual mobsters in his attacks on the judge's families, the daughter, and he's doing it to the point that Lawrence made. He knows he will never spend a day, a second, a moment in prison. But for me, there is something wonderfully poetic about the fact that despite the fact that even if convicted, he's not going to go to prison, The first person to actually criminally prosecute Donald Trump is a Black Harvard grad, the very kind of person that his former staff, the people who worked for him, Stephen Miller, et cetera, want to never be at Harvard Law School.
June 2018. Cameras follow the First Lady as she heads to Texas to visit children separated from their parents under her husband's zero-tolerance immigration policy. The headline should have been about compassion. Instead, it became about a Zara jacket with giant white letters reading, "I really don't care, do you?" Joy Reid went live that evening with that exact phrase on the screen behind her. She shook her head and said, "Imagine wearing that while visiting children ripped from their parents. Compassion is not a photo op."
And the Gerald Ford thing happened when I was a child, right? And they put out more information almost immediately. We knew almost immediately almost everything about Kennedy's assassination. I know more about McKinley's assassination than I do about this attempt to assassinate Trump when he was a presidential candidate. We're getting nothing. And the mainstream media isn't demanding his medical records. They're not demanding anything. They're terrified of this man. And now that the people are speculating that he might have died, we only get that online. But mainstream media is acting like everything's fine. He seems fine to me.
Her panel didn't try to soften it. They called it cruel, performative, and tone deaf. Then Joy made it even clearer. This isn't just bad optics. It's a message. It's the Trump brand in one sentence. Weeks later, Melania confirmed what Joy had said, that the jacket was for the media, a message to critics. Joy played the clip on air and smirked. So she admits it. The cruelty isn't a bug, it's a feature. The audience applauded.
We can't come together around kicking women or gay, bi, or trans people out of the military just because Macho Man weekend TV guys said so. We cannot come together around Elon Musk, who runs an app infused with racism and misogyny, and who gamed that app to sway an election, and now essentially co-owns a president alongside Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden is perfectly free to come together with Trump and the people who literally 3 days ago were calling him every name in the book, because he's the president and therefore immune from prosecution by our soon-to-be autocrat under John Roberts' rules for American kings. So he has the privilege of coming together with the guy who quoted Hitler on his way back to the White House. Some of us do not have the privilege to come together around that.
It wasn't just another news segment. It was the moment Joy Reid publicly turned Melania's fashion choice into a symbol of everything wrong with the Trump era. Arrogance dressed as apathy. Jump to August 2020. The Republican National Convention again, this time with a different tone. The White House is glowing gold under spotlights as Donald Trump gives his acceptance speech from the South Lawn, Melania having already delivered her remarks days earlier in the newly renovated Rose Garden.
Donald Trump, in some ways, people try to say God put him in the White House. I don't believe God is that cruel. But in a way, I'm thinking the way you could justify saying that, Donald Trump is the physical embodiment of all of America's sins.
I agree completely.
Right? He's sloppy. He's unkempt. Everything about him is false. His hair is a pretense of non-baldness. He's old, but his followers try to pretend that he looks like Superman. He's a terrible businessman and a failure who gets to fake success because he's white, so banks keep lending him money even when he's failing. His father scoops money out of his siblings' inheritance to give him when he fails. He's a fuck up, but he's able to be a success because white America keeps saying, no, that guy is what success looks like. He's only a success on that TV show because when he was at his brokest, he gets hired to be on The Apprentice. His boardroom couldn't even be used on The Apprentice, and I found this out in my first my Trump book.
The setting looks like a monarchy, not a democracy. MSNBC cuts live to Joy Reid immediately after. She doesn't mince words. This is repugnant. This is what it looks like to have a decrepit, corrupt monarch holding court. She compares the visual to Mobutu Sese Seko in Zaire and says, "That's not patriotism, that's pageantry for power." The network's feed flicks back to the White House, where Melania is smiling politely beside her husband.
Because it was so shoddy and unkempt. I went in Trump Tower in the 80s. It was tacky and sad. His marriage is a fraud. Melania clearly won't even touch him. The last time she let him touch her, they had Barron. clear that he ain't touching her now. He doesn't believe in marriage. He doesn't have morality. He got 3 baby mamas, 5 children. Everything about him is a lie. He's not a Christian, but Christians love him. But he embodies the greed, the shamelessness, the lasciviousness of capitalism. And now also to your main, and I think really important point, the mediocrity. He could never be JFK. He's not handsome. He's not suave. He's not brave. He was never a war hero like JFK. He has none. Even RFK can never be JFK. None of these people stand up to JFK's legacy. But he can only get a theater named after him by stealing JFK's. Melania can only get a ballroom, the Kit Kat Club lady he met at the Kit Kat Club. We don't know who introduced him, but Jeffrey Epstein was around. She can only get a ballroom named after her by being married to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he said himself, he could never get a Kennedy Center honor. Unworthy. But he can get one now. He can steal one because he owns a Kennedy Center.
And Joy drives it home. He's not just turning the people's house into his campaign backdrop. She's helping him do it. If you love seeing journalists turn spin into accountability, hit like right now because Joy just did what most anchors won't. Connect the dots between image and manipulation. By 2025, Joy had turned that instinct into an art form. During a readout segment on Trump's proposed citizenship and deportation policies, she issued a live warning that went instantly viral.
But he was. And he came out and graduated, and he's prosecuting you, Donald. And a black woman is doing that same exact thing in Georgia. And a black woman forced you to pay a $175 million fine that's out now also in question because the people who put it up, that might not be legit. Donald Trump is being held to account by the very multicultural, multiracial democracy that he's trying to dismantle. And for me, there's something poetic and actually wonderful about that. It says something good about our country that we're still capable of having that happen. Go DEI. My DEIs are bringing it home on today.
Trump's team had floated legal frameworks that could allow revoking citizenship for disloyalty or fraudulent naturalization. Joy leaned toward the camera and said, "Be careful what you wish for." Under another administration, these same rules could be used to denaturalize your own wife. The panel went silent. Joy continued. Melania Trump became a U.S. citizen in 2006. If you normalize giving presidents the power to strip citizenship, what makes you think it stops with brown people?
Times they're eating dogs and cats. It was after that he went into the dogs and cats. David Weir breaks in and says, no, sir. There is no credible reporting about that. He kept rambling. I think what Vice President Harris managed to do was every single thing that the campaign beforehand said they wanted her to do. She got her policy points out. After this debate, what people will think about when they think about Vice President Harris is $25,000 for building a first home, $50,000 for a new business. They will think about the $6,000 tax credit because she kept saying it. Yeah. And what he kept saying was rambling, bizarre nonsense that made him look old. It made him look unstable. It made him look not just unpresidential, but the look that was on Vice President Harris's face. I kept screenshotting her face. The look said pity. Yeah. She looked like she pitied him. And she kept looking at him like, are you okay? Yeah. And she finally said, I think you're having a hard time connecting with reality.
Yahoo News, The Daily Beast, and even the Economic Times picked up the segment the next morning. Conservative pundits raged that Joy was targeting Melania. Joy didn't flinch. On the next night's show, she doubled down. If you build authoritarian tools, they don't disappear when you're out of office. That's the point. The clip dominated political TikTok for days. It wasn't gossip. It was the most brutal form of exposure. The truth framed as irony.
I think that's what he's saying. He's saying they're very special that way. But at the inner cities, the inner city people, which given the fact that Trump is 79 years old and comes from a certain generation, means black people are just not doing the work. They're just not in the fields anymore. They're not, the coming into the field doesn't come naturally to them anymore. Okay. So just to be clear, if you are a MAGA voter who supported Trump in order to see millions and millions of non-white migrants deported, he just told you that the violent, militarized, masked ICE deportations that he and Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan are staging on camera to entertain and appease you are temporary. He intends to bring the deportees right on back here soon, somehow, to get them to want to come back, because they make the perfect nearly slave labor. They never complain. They don't get a bad back. And besides, the inner cities, the blacks, they just won't pull their weight in the fields anymore. So we need them. Huh.
Everything was fine until she started turning the same lens on Donald Trump himself. Joy's most viral takedowns didn't come from prepared monologues. They came from reactions. In January 2025, right after Trump's second inauguration, Joy called it the most violent transfer of power in U.S. history, referencing the threats, intimidation, and political purges that followed. "We watched a man bully his way back into the White House," she said, "and he's still obsessed with revenge, not governance."
Do you feel like Jasmine Crockett should be the leading voice of the party?
Yes, and the thing is, what the Democrats do to me wrong is that they prioritize whose turn it is. Like, Democrats are very orderly. They're almost too orderly for fascism. You know, in fascism, you can't be orderly because the other side is messy. And Donald Trump stays messy. Everything he does is random, but it also exudes power. And in the case of Jasmine Crockett, a rational party facing actual fascism would say, who are our most effective voices? Who do the people listen to? Who do the people trust? Who do the people want to hear from? If it's Jasmine Crockett, we don't care who's in line.
That's right.
She's about to be the leader. We're going to put her as the head of whatever this committee is, make her the head of oversight, and put her on TV every day. But that isn't what Democrats do because they're orderly. And orderly is insufficient in the face of fascism.
That one line summed up Joy's entire thesis on Trump: power used not for purpose, but for payback. Then there's the moment from the 2020 RNC broadcast that still circulates on social media as a masterclass in live political commentary. As Trump wrapped his speech, fireworks spelling his name exploded over the Washington Monument. Joy stared into the camera and said, "This is not America. It's a cult of personality wrapped in state power."
And the difference between Trump and Biden is that Trump is also incoherent, says stupid shit every day, but Fox cuts down his incoherent babble into what sounds like normal speech. He is so edited. That announcement he did when he announced that we were bombing Iran, go back and read it. Don't listen to it. Read it.
The panel around her fell quiet. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't planned, it was Joy's gut response. MSNBC's producers later said they didn't plan to cut to her immediately, but she insisted. "The country needs to hear what this is," she said. And she was right. The next morning, every major outlet quoted that line. Let's piece it together. 2016, Joy questions the double standard that lets Melania plagiarize.
Weirdly connected to me being black. Because, of course, that is Piers' shtick, right? Just like it's Donald Trump's and Fox's, and just about every other right-wing content producer. What the right loves to do is fixate on race in order to accuse black people of fixating on race. Donald Trump has literally run 3 race-centered presidential campaigns whose themes were Mexico is sending us rapists, African countries are shitholes, and Africans and Muslims should not be allowed to come here, and Haitians will eat your pets. If that is not a campaign based on identity politics, I don't know what is. Trump is literally the white identity politics politician. And sorry, Piers, hate to break it to you, but white identity politics, unfortunately, sometimes also appeals to non-white people who want to identify with the power of the majority, including some immigrants who in this past election wound up voting to get their own family members deported.
2018, Joy calls out Melania's cruelty in designer letters. 2020, Joy names the monarchy aesthetic that Melania helped stage. 2025, Joy warns Trump's authoritarian fantasies could turn on his own wife. It's not gossip, it's pattern recognition. Each time, Joy turns a PR stunt into a civics lesson. Everything was fine until people realized she wasn't just talking about Melania's fashion or Trump's speeches.
The people who now no longer have to worry about competition to get into Harvard and Columbia and Yale, or to get the jobs they want, or the military appointments that they want, or the jobs in the Trump administration that they want. They don't have to worry about competition from black and brown people because Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth from Fox and all the other people who are unqualified for their jobs are deleting all the blacks and the browns and making sure that they all get deported and locked up so that they don't have to compete and cannot compete with the people who, frankly, aren't qualified but have the right complexion for the connection when it comes to MAGA.
She was talking about the moral decay of an entire brand. To Joy, Melania wasn't an innocent bystander. She was a participant in the theater of cruelty. And Donald wasn't a politician. He was a performer desperate for applause, even at the cost of dignity. If you're watching this, drop a comment below. Do you think Joy Reid went too far? Or did she finally say what everyone else was too afraid to admit? Either way, she didn't just expose Melania. She exposed the illusion of innocence that Trump world sells every night on TV.
We are seeing a global trend of the far right surging. It isn't just happening here. But let's bring you back to the U.S. and to our local gangster, Donald Trump. He's not even president yet, and he's already spending his time sitting in his golden palace, Mar-a-Lago, muscling other countries like he's Tony Soprano with a social media site. Doing things like, reportedly, debating whether or not to invade Mexico. Threatening BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with 100% tariffs if they don't commit to trading in dollars and not their own currencies. Demanding Hamas release all hostages being held in Gaza before his inauguration, or there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East. Even reportedly threatening Canada. According to Fox, when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago this weekend to try to talk Trump out of his 25% tariff threat, Trump apparently suggested that if Canada can't handle the tariffs that would violate the NAFTA upgrade Trump himself signed into law, the USMCA, they should just become the 51st state. Just become the 51st state instead and allow Trudeau to be reduced to governor of the state of Canada, which caused the prime minister and others to laugh nervously. And while some are writing that off as just a joke, just a few hours ago, Trump posted this obviously AI photo of him standing on a mountaintop next to the Canadian flag, looking off into the distance with the caption, "Oh, Canada." And for the record, he appears to be looking at the Matterhorn, which is on the border between Switzerland and Italy, not Canada.
Because Joy Reid's greatest weapon isn't outrage, it's clarity. Every time she's gone live, she's pulled another mask off, the copycat speech, the cruel jacket, the faux royal staging, the legal boomerang, and each one reveals the same truth. Beneath all the glamour, there's a void that feeds on attention, and that's what makes her exposure sting. It's not just personal, it's political, cultural, and moral. When Joy Reid calls it out live, it's not entertainment, it's evidence. If you still believe telling the truth is the most radical act on live television, hit like right now and drop a comment with your favorite Joy Reid moment. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to America Facticity for more breaking news.